For the very first time, US officials have given the green light for scientists to experiment with modification of human genes. It's been approved in the hope of trying to develop new anti-cancer technology. But the tests undertaken on humans have been underway for some time already. Meet Elizabeth Parrish. She became a test subject for her own biotechnology company. Last year, at the age of 44, she was tested with two types of therapy. The first to prevent losing muscle mass, which comes naturally with age, and the second to battle stem cell depletion, which is linked to various diseases. We spoke to her about her innovative products.
We're dealing with people who have the potential lifespan of 120 years. But they're retiring at 65, often disabled, unable to work. We're telling you that we've done some safety data on it because the world is waiting for a cure, and we want to move it forward into clinical trials. We want to see what happens in human bodies. We want to create bodies.
Salutations, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Catching Trends segment. I have called this one Hybrid Humanity, simply because we are now seeing what happens whenever transhumanism, human-animal chimeras, hybrids, so to speak, become mainstream. And that's exactly what happened. The National Institutes of Health and various other groups around the entire world are now starting to mess with our genome. Or, as the Bible would say, they are corrupting the human flesh. Exactly, guys. We are now living in the days of Noah. If you needed any more of an example, here we are. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. So if you guys haven't really caught on, more and more of these types of things are actually happening. And this is where I'm actually going to advertise for you guys to check out my vault. And in the transhumanist section of the documents folder, you guys can actually read some of these documents as well, where they talk about Dolly the sheep. They talk about inter and intra-species cloning, you see, or at least messing with the genetics at that level, because there's two different types of, not even two, there's so many different ways a human-animal hybrid or a chimera can be made. And this is why I use the branch term of transhumanism, because not only are they trying to endow human consciousness or some kind of relative human consciousness to animals, they're also trying to give us the qualities and the traits and the abilities of some actual animals. And I know this sounds fantastic on the very first level. Who, like I said before, who would not want to have a monkey tail like Goku? Who would not want to have the wings of an angel? Who would not want to have the speed of a cheetah? You see, but one of the things we are not looking at, and I'm sure these biologists and these eugenicists, I'm sure they're looking at this now too, is the epigenetic factor of what happens when we mix the DNA. And that's exactly where we are. We now have people who are literally putting forth millions of work hours towards perfecting a new race, creating a race within a race, before you guys actually have the actual, well, not the actual article, multiple articles that give you an illusion as to, or allude towards, what's actually going on in the world. I've been following the whole transhumanist, CRISPR-Cas9, genome editing, genetically modified humans thing for nearly roughly about a year now. And they've accelerated their understanding. They've accelerated their timetables. But I digress. Let me read from the actual article. From an NPR article published this morning, the federal government announced plans Thursday to lift a moratorium on funding of controversial experiments that use human stem cells to create animal embryos that are partly human. The National Institutes of Health is proposing a new policy to permit scientists to get federal money to make embryos known as chimeras under certain carefully monitored conditions. So as we've heard before, that human-animal chimeras are gestating all across the entire world, all underneath us in subterranean workshops, basically. The NIH imposed a moratorium on funding these experiments in September because they could raise ethical questions or ethical concerns. One issue is that scientists might inadvertently create animals that have partly human brains, endowing them with some semblance of human consciousness or human thinking abilities. Another is that they could develop into animals with human sperm and eggs and breed, producing human embryos or fetuses inside of animals or hybrid creatures. So what we have here, as I've said before, is more of the epigenetic factor. Well, while they're doing these experiments on these animals and giving them human traits and human qualities, we're not sure what that will do to the epigenetic factor, to the legacy factor of these animals, and subsequently these humans, these creatures, these humanoids, these hybrids, these chimeras. And that's exactly where we are. This is transhumanism at its core, you see. But scientists have argued that they could take steps to prevent those outcomes, and that the embryos provide invaluable tools for medical research. For example, scientists hope, and this is how it works. This is what they're trying to say. It's all for health purposes. If they can grow, if they can grow organs inside of pigs, well, why not do it, right? For example, scientists hope to use the embryos to create animal models of human diseases, which could lead to new ways to prevent and treat illnesses. Researchers also hope to produce sheep, pigs, and cows with human hearts, kidneys, livers, pancreases, and possibly organs that could be used for transplants. In addition, the NIH would even consider experiments that could create animals with human sperm and human eggs, since they may be useful for studying human development and infertility. But in that case, steps would have to be taken to prevent the animals from breeding. So basically what they're saying is, well, we're going to give cows the ability to produce human sperm, and then we're going to stop them from being able to produce and breed. And that's what they're telling us with these white papers, you see. And this is exactly what they're trying to do. While they'll push this out into the public eye, the idea that we're splicing our human genome, that we're creating these kind of chimeras, what do you guys think is really going on underneath our feet in the deep underground military bases? What do you think, Dr. Doctor of Moreau, Dr. Moreau, the Isle of Dr. Moreau, where he's creating all kinds of different creatures? You don't think that we still have that today? There are thousands, millions of different combinations within the human genome that can be sequenced. And the minute that we start adding other species into that equation, into what makes life, that's whenever we're playing God. And this is them doing just that. This is them finding ways, bureaucratically, to play God. Because whenever it is a human and an animal, it doesn't necessarily have the rights. And they've already laid out the ethical concerns on that. And this is where we are in the year 2016. So while we're confused on whether or not Donald Trump is a racist, and we know that Hillary Clinton is a known liar, we have scientists in the background literally altering the human genome. And if it's not by the genetically modified food that's destroying us, then it could be the chemtrails that they're spraying. And if it's not the chemtrails, then it could be some of the Gardasil and the HPV vaccines that are literally altering our DNA. What people have to wake up to is the times that we are in. And the only way they'll get better is whenever you get better. Whenever you change how you interact with what's going on in today's society. But that's all I really got for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll have it in the description bar below. And as always, guys, stay vigilant, expose lies, and share truth. This is Noisera, Freedom Faction, out.